Welcome, everyone, to another episode. I'm very happy to be here with you all. We were just making a joke. We're talking about being famous, and we have here Lynnsey Robinson, and I am the Annalena Fox. So we were talking about our names, and I was explaining to her my last name, and I just felt that your name sounds very cool, and I feel like it sounds like something famous, and so we were just joking
And
around.
I took that as an affirmation and a manifestation
Yeah,
immediately.
exactly. Because we're going to talk about all these beautiful things today about spirituality and manifestation. And I'm going to just introduce you now formally because that's how we do it properly on the podcast, right? So, Lynnsey Robinson is a certified hypnotherapist, intuitive guide, and co host of the High Vibing It podcast, who specializes in helping women unlock the power of their subconscious mind and reconnect to their soul. Through her one-on-one work and her membership, Align Your Mind, she's guided hundreds of women to elevate their mindset, release limiting beliefs, and manifest their dream lives with ease. And Lynnsey blends powerful mindset work with spiritual connection, helping her clients strengthen their intuitive gifts and embrace a life of alignment and flow. I already told you you're talking my language, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with you.
I'm so excited to be here. Let's just go for it. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah, and it's also so cool because we really don't know each other, right? Like somehow these agents connected us, but when I saw your, this one page sheet, what you do, I was like, yeah, it feels real good. It felt right in my body. And now we talked. I live in Florida. You were born very close to where I live right now. So it's kind of cool. These
No coincidence.
exactly. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, what led you into this work? Did you know as a child that you were more into spiritual things and trusting your intuition, or did that come later on?
No, it was my earliest memories really was just me seeing ghosts and not really seeing them. Like maybe I did, I don't know, but just I remember growing up and just always being very interested and drawn to spirit, I guess, as I would translate it back then to ghosts. And I wanted to be a ghost hunter, and I wanted to, I would
Hmm.
always be in the cemetery, and I would touch the tombstones in the cemetery and try to figure out how people died, like get that intuitive download. I was like middle school, so it was
Well,
very
I mean,
it was
that's
yeah, I mean, it was
definitely
it was
special.
fun. And I just loved being kind of alone. I loved being in the graveyard because it's just so beautiful there. We have a really nice one in my town that I live in. Um, I want to try to keep this story short because I always it's so intricate, I think, to really tell how I got here. But I was always like drawn to that kind of thing. What makes humans more than just human? What is our unseen
Mm.
aspect, and what does that look like? And as I got to college, I really wanted to study criminology, and I was obsessed with serial killers, and I just really wanted to know like what made them tick, and what how are you so different in your chemistry, in your upbringing, and your spirit that than me, and what really makes everybody so different. It's fascinating, and it still is. If you can't tell, I'm very fascinated by it. But one semester of college taught me very quickly I'm not cut out for all of that death and
Mm.
low vibe stuff. And so I kind of was questioning like what do I want to do, because I don't know anything that really fits this category in the way that I want to express it. And I couldn't put my finger on what that was, but coincidentally, synchronistically, my sister gave me a book called Journey of Souls around the same time, and I read it and just answered every question I didn't know I had about spirit, about souls, about, I mean, past lives, reincarnation, the soul's journey, and
Mm.
how massive and magnificent we really are. And I just found myself completely changed. Something lit up, something unlocked, and I was never going to be the same again. And in a good way. And so that led to a series of events where I got this intuitive pull to move from my town in Michigan all the way to Los Angeles, which I did within a year of reading this book. I saved up my money and I got my affairs in order, which isn't a lot when you're 20. And I just kind of skedaddled on my own over to LA for two reasons. Number one, which I didn't really see at the time, was I needed to get out of my situation that I was in with family dynamics and relationships I was in just were not serving who I knew I was becoming and I needed to be. And also there was what I thought was the reason was there was an institute created by the writer of the book, Journey of Souls, Michael Newton, that just taught hypnotherapy. And I was like, I'm going to go to California. I'm going to do that. And that's going to be me forever. I went to California, didn't end up going to that institute, completely realized immediately I needed to get a job and pay my bills because LA is not a cheap place to live. And again, long story short, 8 years later had my first son. I was working, I think, at GameStop as a manager. Shout out to GameStop. Love video games. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do, especially as a mom. I wanted to like be home with him. I wanted to raise my son. And I had just newly gotten married and I needed to figure out like what we were going to be doing. And I asked myself, with this new baby, what am I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm like 27 at this point. What do I want to be when I grow up? What's the real thing that I want to do? And it wasn't working in retail. I can tell you that right now. And immediately I got, hypnotherapy. Remember hypnotherapy? You wanted to do that in my head. And I thought, yeah, I'll do that. And then immediately following, but you're a mom. You probably should get something real, something normal. You need to be responsible. Like all of these reasons, it was a bad idea. And I, dropped in my energy and my shoulders slumped. And I was like, yeah, probably should just go back to work and like go back to 60 hours a week. And then I heard a voice that said, well, wait a second. Why not? Why not? Why is this not a good idea if this is what you want to do? And I know now that was my intuition or my higher self or my higher wisdom speaking to me. And I didn't have a good answer for why not. Why can't I do that? There are people that do that, apparently, allegedly. There are people that can live their dreams and be happy. Why can't I do that? And so just asking myself that question, unknowingly asking myself that question, because I didn't consciously do that. So thank you to my higher wisdom. I didn't have a good answer. So I just, what if I just made a call? What if I just researched? What if I just like looked into it? And again, I didn't end up going to the Michael Newton Institute. I ended up going to an institute in LA, right down the street. And I can show you a map. I swear this is real. Right down the street from where I would have gone back to work. Now, this is Los Angeles. This is not,
it's not
this
like a
is not a
small
village town.
village.
This is a huge, multi like faceted. LA County is gigantic. LA City is gigantic. There's like the chances of it being right down the street are absolutely microscopic. And I that was kind of my first inclination, like maybe it's a good idea. Anyway, I ended up going to that institute for a tour and called my husband from that tour. And I was like, can I please do this? Not really in a way that I needed to ask permission. I was kind of looking to him for a way out. If he would have said to me, this is too big, you're going to have to take out a student loan, you're going to have to do all these things to make this work, and we have a baby now, probably shouldn't do it. I would have listened. I really would have, because it would have confirmed my fear that I had already had previous. And how many times in our lives are we just looking for someone else to tell us that we're right to be afraid? But he didn't. He sure didn't. He was like, do you really want to do it? I said, yeah, I do. And he said, then we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out were the best words he probably could have said. So I did. And fun fact, after I graduated, doing my dream career, I ended up working at the Institute to train new hypnotherapists. And I looked at my name in the database, true story, because who doesn't do, I mean, if you're not looking up your own name in a database that you're in and you're allowed to do it, like, of course I did it. So I looked at my name and I had a profile. I had two profiles. I had one from 2012 when I started studying, and I had one from 2005. Mind you, I moved to LA in 2006. So I wasn't in LA yet. I had called this institute from my home in Michigan in 2005.
Oh.
And then obviously when they called me back, I didn't answer. Right? Because we all do that too. We're like, I'm not ready. I'm not going to answer the phone. And that's what I did. I didn't answer the phone. And it took that. They had my old address. They had my old, because you have to fill out the application. They had my old phone number. They had everything. And I was in their database. My it to me, like, you can't convince me I'm not supposed to be doing this. My soul made me, left that breadcrumb for me to find, I don't know, 8 years later, so that I would know that this was the right decision. Because
Mm.
I'm a pretty skeptical person. I'm a pretty I say skeptical, but I like to know that there's no way I'm just being naive, I guess. And for me, that was like, nope, you knew. Your past self set you up for success in a way that, like, only you could do it, and only you would know that this is the right answer. So and we're always doing that. I think as humans, we're always setting ourselves up in that way. If you're willing to listen, and I obviously wasn't willing to listen in 2005, but I ended up listening eventually, and I think that's the important thing.
Oh, I love this so
Anyway,
much.
that's how I got here.
Yes, thank you. I love stories because I feel like that really connects us with
Yeah.
other humans. And that's something I will also more remember than anything else from a conversation, the actual
Right.
story. What I love here, kind of a learning lesson for everyone listening right now, including myself, is that when something is really meant for us, that's our, I call it divine will or aligned path, this soul curriculum, right? That we came here for. Eventually, even though we may take another turn, it's like a GPS.
Mm-hmm.
You have this destination, and yeah, you can make a left and a right, even though you're supposed to go straight, but eventually it will always redirect you. And in those instances, your intuition speaks more than once. It keeps repeating. I had some other guests also, they were all about intuition on the podcast. And often we say, like, oh, no, your intuition only speaks once, but from your story and other conversations I've had from my own experience too, like I feel like if something is really meant for me to take action on, it keeps dropping again and again until I'm like, okay,
Yes.
universe, I got it. Like I'm gonna do this now. And in your story, I mean, oh my gosh, like how patient
Whew, my guides
universe
were
is
exhausted
too,
on that
right?
one.
Yeah, like oh, and then finally you did it. And not just 2 months later, like almost a decade later, right?
Yeah.
Years later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely one of those things that was a series of scary decisions. It wasn't just like one big decision and then everything works out. It was like, nope, you are going to be tested when you move to LA and figure out life there. And you're going to be, put up for this to see if you, how much you really want it. We're going to make it so easy for you to say yes to this life altering decision. Now, if you say yes, then we're good to go. But if you let fear take over, which, I have not, and I want to be clear when I tell this story, and any time I talk about intuition, I do not follow my intuition 24/7. I don't think anyone really does, because we're always questioning, we're always second guessing, we're always trying to decide if this is the right decision. But in those moments when you know that it's your intuition, that's when I think it's important to really honor yourself, because I really truly believe, I think anytime that you take the risk and listen to something you know is your higher self talking, you cannot land wrong. You just cannot land wrong. You will never be in a situation where you regret listening to your intuition. I really don't think it's possible. And if you are regretting it, I don't think it was your intuition,
Hmm.
you
I
know?
can vouch for that from my own experience. I can also say that I had a couple of instances in my life where I really know that I did not listen to my intuition and it kicked me in the butt badly.
Yeah.
Like it was really like, okay, you didn't listen. It wasn't your truth.
Tried to warn you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, right? Yeah, listening to your intuition 24/7 is, I don't want to say it's impossible, but look, we're humans, right?
We are
Okay,
humans.
otherwise
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here because we already like have this like elevated consciousness. And I think
Yeah.
we're here to transcend that in some way. We're here to raise consciousness collectively.
Exactly. And nobody's, I think it's Abraham Hicks that says, when you're done evolving, you're dead. When you're done learning, you're dead. When you're done,
Yeah.
giving to the world, then you're dead. When you're done, you're dead. If you're here, you got some work to do. And how
Mhm.
lucky are we to get to do that?
Yeah.
I think we're here to
Ah,
experience it all.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear a little bit from you in the work that you do, because you're very passionate about helping people live in their destiny, or you call it that we have all a divine blueprint, right? So what is a typical person that comes to you? Where are they at, and how do you help them shift and transform?
Oof. Okay. So I'll tell you the thing that people come to me the most is probably the spiritual stuff. I like to do spiritual, I call it spiritual hypnotherapy, but really it's just everything to do with the soul and your inner empowerment, your inner healing. So it's funny because I'll have people come to me for like money. I want to increase my annual revenue. I want to get promoted. I want more abundance. I want to rewrite my money story. Okay. Or I want to have the relationship of my dreams. I keep repeating these patterns and I need to figure that out. Okay, cool. Or, I want to, whether it's relationships or success in your job or your life in some way, if you don't have the goal, it's because your subconscious hasn't signed off on it. You need the approval of your subconscious, which stores all of your beliefs that are true for you. Doesn't mean they are true. It just means they're true for you. This is the reality that you're working under. And so anytime you want to introduce a new idea to that paradigm, to that blueprint, you're going to need the approval of your subconscious. Now, the thing that stops us usually is somewhere, I'd say 99% of the time, somewhere our subconscious says, but other people have that, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So a
I've heard
lot of
that.
time, not always, I'd say 1% of the time, this isn't the thing. But in almost inevitably, the client will come to the conclusion that they have a stored belief that they aren't worthy of XYZ, or
Hmm.
it just seems too big for them to have. And so that's usually where we go, is if the client has this discovery, and it is always the client that has this discovery. It's never me going, you know what, I think you feel unworthy. It's never, I don't put words into my clients' mouths ever. It's usually them having these profound experiences in their hypnotherapy where they're like, I never looked at this in this way before, or I never put these pieces together, never connected this. And so it draws them to their own conclusions. And that's why I think this work is so powerful. I know I'm digressing, but this is important. It is always the client's goals, it is always the client's journey. If you have an experience in your body, in your subconscious, it believes that it on some level it actually did happen to you. That's why we cry at movies, because somewhere your body slash mind, your subconscious, the automatic part of you thinks that it's happening to you, or has such a deep empathy for that because a part of you is putting yourself in their shoes or putting yourself through it. So if it happens in the subconscious via hypnotherapy, for instance, it happened. When you have this kind of experience, you will integrate it into the body in a way that it feels like it really happened. And when that happens, that's when real change occurs. So versus me saying, oh well, yeah, you're worthy, of course you are, because of course you are. However, it's not going to land the same, and it's not going to last that long, because it's coming from outside of you. And spoiler, if it comes from inside of you, it's more powerful. So anyway, that's why I love hypnotherapy so much, because again, it is the client taking this journey. It is the client having these amazing breakthroughs and these epiphanies about themselves and getting to know themselves on a deeper level. And yes, I would say 99% of the time worthiness does come into play, but that's why it's so powerful and beautiful, because they get to that point of not feeling worthy, going up the staircase to worthiness, and then feeling that worthiness, that unshakable self-worth, confidence, self-respect, self-trust. I mean, my goodness. And then once that happens, you're pretty much good to go on anything, because you believe it's possible for you.
Yeah.
And so the subconscious will allow it to come into your reality, come into your life in such an easier way than you trying to fight that. The subconscious, by the way, is about 95% of your mind power. So if you are fighting your limiting beliefs consciously, that's 5% of your mind conscious going up against 95% subconscious. It's going to win every time. So,
Yeah. So I have a question for you, because
yeah,
I know oftentimes people may wonder this. If 95%, which is subconscious, we're not really aware of, like, how do we go about this, and how do we even become aware of what these programs are, and how do we really shift that? And I know you do it with hypnotherapy, but how can people even do this? Is it
yeah,
possible to do it yourself?
it is. Absolutely. There's a lot of conscious things that we can do, that I really, especially in the first few sessions, try to teach my clients, which is It's going to sound so obvious, but just ask more questions. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
if you want more money and you don't have more money, right? Just write down, "Hey, why don't I have more money?" And just listen. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to say about this. If you choose to do this, ask more questions. I highly recommend doing it, but I also highly recommend doing it in handwriting. Your handwriting is one of the most powerful tools at your disposal that we really don't use enough. Your handwriting is a direct line to your subconscious, which is why journaling is so powerful and why affirmations, writing them down, are so powerful. Affirmations, intake, we're putting in information. Writing down and journaling, releasing your emotions and your stuckness and your energy around a certain thing is your output, is getting it out of the body and out of the mind, at least on paper. It's not going to leave completely, but at least it'll be in an organized, a little more organized than jumbled around in your mind. Handwriting, especially your own handwriting, writing down on paper, more so than typing, obviously, but writing down on paper is such a powerful tool to speak to the subconscious and communicate with it. So if you write down, "Hey, subconscious, why don't I have more money?" I can guarantee you an answer has already popped in many people's heads just by thinking about the question. When you think of a question or ask a question, your subconscious wants to answer it. The thing
Yeah.
is, you got to listen.
So I love this so much because I also talk a lot in human design about,
Yeah.
so the head center we have in human design at the very top, there's certain gates and they're all about asking questions because we always try to figure everything out, right? With the
Yeah.
mind and with the 5% of the conscious of what we already know, but it's in the 95%
Yeah.
that where really the transformation can happen. And also, I'm a big fan of Gay Hendricks, his work. He uses
Yes.
the power of wonder questions. He actually was on the podcast a few months ago, and
Mhm.
he uses those wonder questions, and I have been using them in my life. It's so powerful. Like just wondering about how amazing life can get and wondering about all these
Yes.
amazing things. But what I get from you, which I find super valuable, because we also sometimes have this idea, if I ask, why don't I make more money? I will get that back. Why I not make more money? And I stay in that. But it's very important to bring this to my awareness, what unconscious
Yes.
belief is behind, right? So to actually look at, okay, this is my reality, and I feel like I'm having a limitation here. I live more in a scarcity situation. Just get curious, like you say. And I love the thing with the handwriting because with technology these days, we lose all of that magic, right? We
Yes.
just like type it or we're connected to social media all the time. So it's getting back to basics, piece of paper, old school pen.
Mm.
And just for the clarity to like, oh, okay, because I believe this. And then we can ask, now I wonder how I can shift this belief. How can I believe such and such, right? And
Now,
then we
yeah,
can shift it.
absolutely. Any kind of behavioral change is about making the subconscious conscious. Once you're aware of it, and I was reading the book Atomic Habits not that long ago, and I love that book. But one of the things that was so interesting and definitely speaks to this, and it's so funny how many parallels you find as a mindset coach or worker, that
Mhm.
everyone's out there just doing the same thing and calling it something different, pretty much. but
Mhm.
but it's great. It's a good thing, I think. But the author was talking about how he was using the example of overeating or stress eating or mindless eating if you're bored or whatever.
Mhm.
And he said just the simple act of saying out loud what you're doing as you're doing it. I am reaching into the pantry right now. I am grabbing the chips. I am eating the chips. I am eating the chips because da 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 will completely change that behavior if you are able to make it conscious. And so that's really kind of one of the reasons that this is so powerful too, is you're making it conscious. You're bringing up what is just automatic to you, making a certain amount of money, staying where you are in this comfortable, uncomfortable box, and voicing it, giving it a voice. And you can even take it one step further. Once you get familiar with this, just asking the question, you can say, what part of me wants to stay where I'm at? Because there is always a small part of you that is fine because it's known. It's fine because it's familiar.
Mhm.
Now, your subconscious's only job is to keep you alive and breathing, to work the automatic systems in the body and to
Mhm.
keep you safe emotionally and mentally based off of your experiences, the experiences that you've taken in as that were other people's, that you've taken in as true, everything you've experienced up to that point has given you a set of rules to live by. You are allowed to change those rules. So that's the beauty of it. You're allowed to change whatever those rules are. But if you want to be, again, subconscious wants to keep you alive and safe based on what it knows will keep you safe. If you want happy, fulfilled, loved, loving, abundant, it's not impossible. It's just not in the script. And so as a hypnotherapist, all I'm really helping you do is create the script that your subconscious will attract to your reality, because every single person on this planet is 100% successful on reaching every goal they've had based on what their subconscious believes. If you have it, it's because your subconscious believed it. If you don't have it, it's because your subconscious believes you can't have it. But you're allowed to decide what those things are. And that's really what I want to drive home to people. You're allowed to decide what your subconscious knows is true for you.
Yeah, it brings back the power of decision, right?
Yeah.
Because when we send all these different messages to the universe and to the subconscious of like, yeah, I want to make more money, but I don't believe I can. And oh, maybe I should do this. And maybe it's a bad thing because there are a lot of people that I know that have a lot of money and they do things that I don't. I mean, then the universe,
Yep.
Okay, not sure what you're
Yep.
telling me to do. So yeah, that's definitely really powerful. Yeah, I really love the simplicity with asking questions because I think we always overcomplicate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually writing it down, getting curious, and then making that decision and sticking
Yep.
with it. Now, that's what I desire, and I'm gonna go for it, and I'm allowing myself to just believe it. And the other insight that came to me when you were talking, because we often feel like, oh, manifestation doesn't work for us. But when you were speaking, we all manifest all of the time, right? We all are
Every single
excellent.
second.
Yeah, because everything that's currently in my life, I have created, I have manifested through whatever beliefs are running there, you know?
Yeah.
And
And I do use the term, subconscious, because that's the that's the verbiage that I'm used to. I do, when I first started doing hypnotherapy and really kind of getting my stride of what my work looks like and my flavor of this practice, I really started using manifesting and subconscious attraction synonymously, almost like I would say they're sisters. They're very similar. Manifestation, you're aligning your energy to match the thing that you want and drawing it to you. With subconscious, you're just changing the beliefs that are holding you back, which I think is probably all the same stuff. It's all the same.
yeah, I think it's
so
all the same. Yeah.
so whether you're talking about energy or subconscious limiting beliefs, like it really is two sides of the same coin. We're talking about the same thing here. And again, you get to decide what that looks like for you. And that's such a cool thing. Like, how lucky are we that we have been doing this the whole time? In a way, we're all experts already.
Yeah, yeah.
You just have to hone it, and really decide what it is that you want to bring into your life. And that's the fun part, I think.
It is. So, and I also find that, so what you're sharing with me right now, I love how you explain it, and I have heard it from many other people and books in different ways. And I think we need a lot of people sharing it in their unique zone of genius because there are certain people that resonate just with you and how you convey it, and it clicks for them, right? Just like when we are in school, one teacher can teach the same subject, but it's just
Yeah.
not vibing. And then another teacher is like, oh, this is awesome, but it's the same topic per se. And
Yeah.
one question I have for you, because I have been fascinated with this myself recently. So, especially, I think the first 7 years of life, they really make up a lot of what our subconscious programming is because we are more in is it the alpha and the theta brain waves as we are young, right? And basically everything we hear, we believe especially as babies and little ones, we are so programmable. And I wish I would have known this like when my daughter was just born. I think I already did a pretty
Well,
good
listen,
job,
hold
but
on. I have to say, as someone who did know this, it
Mhm.
almost makes you paranoid because I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
oh
okay.
no,
Okay.
what did I
Maybe.
say? Did I say it in
Yeah.
a wrong way? Should I said that differently? And then I'm getting on my husband like, you shouldn't have said it this way because I'm gonna see him
Yeah.
in my office 20 years from now talking about how you did this one. There's really, you just look,
Yeah, you
you
can
can't
get it
win.
right. No, and it's also they need to learn their lessons, right? And there's a reason
Exactly.
why we may say something, we're like, oh, damn, now they're going to feel like they're not loved or they don't belong.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah. So that's a good point.
It's a fine line. The
Yeah.
grass is always greener. We're all just doing our best. And I think it
Yeah.
happened exactly the way it should,
Yeah. I agree with you on that. So, but with a hypnosis, I think why it's so powerful, at least from my understanding, is because you help people get out of the, so I think in the conscious, like right now, we're more in the better
Mm.
brainwaves, right? And then we get more to the, is it the alpha and the theta? And then when we suggest new beliefs, they stick better. How does it work?
So yeah, I wanted to touch back on what you said about the subconscious. Absolutely correct. I'd say around
Mm-hmm.
7 to 9. It's just one, well, 0 to 7 to 9. It's like
Mm-hmm.
one open space. We're always taking in. That's why
Yeah.
they say kids are sponges, right? We're just accepting everything because we have nothing
Mm-hmm.
to contradict it. If I raised my kids thinking that the color blue was green, they would believe it because they have
Yeah.
nothing to contradict it.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to try to convince them of that now, they'd be like, no. And it's because around 7 to 9, you get what's called a critical filter or a critical mind, which separates the newly formed conscious from the subconscious, which now holds all of those beliefs that you've accumulated up to that point. We're all really just 9-year-olds walking around looking like adults,
Mm-hmm.
if you think of it that way. The conscious mind holds your logic, analytical skills, reasoning, decision making, and willpower. The subconscious, as we've already discussed, holds everything else, your automatic systems, your behaviors, everything that you don't have to think about lives in your subconscious. They are working together constantly. So the words I'm using, I don't have to learn how to speak every time I speak, but I do choose the words to hopefully string together a coherent English sentence.
Yeah.
And the hand gestures I'm using are all subconscious. So they're always working together constantly.
Mm-hmm.
What we do in hypnosis or hypnotherapy is we do not turn off the conscious. We just bring the subconscious to a more receptive state. And that does happen around theta. Delta is unconscious sleep. Hopefully we're all getting delta every night, but I don't think I am most of the time. I think I just need a little help with that one. But delta is where you are just asleep. You are resting. Your body is at rest. Now there is some I guess, debate over whether we can learn in Delta because, they have those sleep hypnosis that, supposedly work while you're asleep. I'm not going to sit here and tell you one is true and one isn't, but there are two very good arguments that say, no, you cannot learn in Delta. That is when you are shut off from new information. There are others who say, well, yeah, of course you can because you're never just shut off completely. So I don't know. It takes smarter people than me, but the theta is where I play around. I probably shouldn't say play around. I don't play with your subconscious.
Yeah,
I
like
do very
let
healing
make
work.
sure you're not planting some beliefs that I don't want. Like, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We're not. There's none of that. But it is where it is. I guess my zone of genius is hanging out in the theta with your subconscious and figuring out, helping you rather to figure out what makes you who you are and why you are here today and what you are capable of in the future. That is also where we I guess it would be a slightly deeper. It's not necessarily theta. When I do spiritual hypnosis like past life regression or higher consciousness communication, spirit guide stuff, I do take the client a little bit deeper. I don't know what level that would be. Maybe in between. We have to come up with a new level for the super conscious
Mm-hmm.
where we access all of that information. But it does take a little bit longer to get the client to that state because we are doing a little more work to get them to the depth that is conducive to that type of work. But for most sessions, it is a theta state, yeah, and we're able to access that part of you that knows what's going on and is ready and willing to give up that information. Whereas normally, it might take a little more work. Like I could ask you right now, what does your subconscious believe about relationships? And you'd probably be able to come up with something. But in order to know what exactly it is, what it looks like, what it feels like, where it lives in the body, and what it needs to be released, that's important. What do you need, limiting belief, in order for you to feel safe to release? What do you need? And give it that, and release with love always.
Yeah, I love this because oftentimes in the spiritual work that we do, I was there for a long time in the first years when I got into self-development work. I always felt like I need to fix something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's almost this resistance to how we feel, how we think, how we behave, and what beliefs we have. And I always experience that when I resist what is, I'm actually creating more of it. And that's why I love that you emphasize we have to do it with love and it has to feel safe. Because if something doesn't feel safe, it's not going to happen. And I think that's why actually for most people, a lot of the healing modalities doesn't work because it comes from a place of rejecting who you are and thinking there's something wrong. And because there is nothing to fix, really, we already are whole, right? It's just about, no, I'm open to fully step into my highest timeline, into my
Yeah.
fullest power, and no longer buy into these false stories. That is not really
Well,
who I am.
exactly. And I'm going to hopefully break it down so simple for people who still have questions about this. Your limiting beliefs, your stuckness, those parts of you that
Mhm.
want to stay small or stay in this reality you've created for yourself. These, I guess you could perceive them as negative beliefs about love or
Mhm.
success or whatever you want to say. What's making you unsatisfied right now and unfulfilled, those things are trying to help you. They've always just been trying to help you and protect you and keep you safe and make sure you're not making a terrible mistake that's going to hurt you and make you uh put you in danger. And I'll tell you, an unknown fear is just as powerful as a known disaster. So if you don't know what's going to happen, it affects you just as much as something that you have experienced that had a negative effect on you. These things are always just trying to protect you and love you. Now, the thing with the subconscious, there's been many things today with the subconscious, but one of the other things with the subconscious is it does not know reality from fiction. It doesn't know fantasy from
Yeah.
reality. It doesn't know expiration dates. So if you learned when you were a kid that money doesn't grow on trees because your mom didn't want to buy you that toy at the store, now that's a belief in your brain. And you're going to think that that's true forever, even if you get $1 million, even if you win the lottery, even if you have abundance all around you, there's still going to be that seed of lack because that is what you believe, and your subconscious does not know that it's not needed anymore, and it
And
really
then
kind of was never needed.
yeah, and then people get
So
rid of all the money because it doesn't feel safe for them to have it, right?
yes,
Because the belief is like money doesn't grow on trees and we better have less. That's safer. Yeah.
exactly, those the people that win the lottery and come into millions of dollars lose it so fast because they don't have the programming that's required to sustain that sort of habit. Now, again, this is just all going back to you get to decide, what those beliefs are. And I really want to stress here that any negative or limiting beliefs that you might have, it's just trying to do a job that it was assigned to do this job, and it doesn't know that there's no longer a need for this job. So that's again where you get to make that decision of like, do I need this, or
Yeah.
is it holding me back? Do I need this, or is it making me unsatisfied? And then release it with love, because it is your friend. It's trying to be
Yeah.
your friend.
I mean, that is so powerful because just the word limiting belief blocks is already telling us also the same with emotions, right? We call it
Yeah.
negative emotions and like that's why we suppressed it. And that's what's actually then leading to the blocks and the limiting beliefs. It's like a vicious cycle in some way.
Yeah.
And I love this reframe. And it's very interesting because I had a conversation yesterday and it was very different, but very similar because it was about the idea that fear is actually love because it means well, it actually wants to
Yep.
protect you. And we always see it as this black or white, one is good and one is bad. But what if it's all good, right? There's no wrong. And when we accept all of it and see it from a place of love, it's all serving us,
Yep.
and it's so true because without these limiting beliefs, we
I
wouldn't
know.
have to
Every
improve
time I say
anything.
limiting
Like,
belief, I
you
don't want
know,
to say it. It's
yeah,
not a good
yeah.
word to use, but I don't have I don't have it. I need to just copyright a new term.
Yeah, please, because it really is. Just when we say it, I think we're already creating a limitation by keep focusing our
Yes.
energy on this. And yeah, I think blocks, limiting beliefs is just something, let us know what you come up with because
Yeah.
there is definitely a huge trend. And on my own journey, the most powerful shift that I had very, very early on was this understanding of energy and like what we resist persists and what we accept, but really not just accept logically, fully in the body on a somatic level. That's when really change can occur. And it's also in human design, you find these energies again in certain gates and gene keys where it's about, yeah, we may have certain limitations and we have certain circumstances, but when we can fully accept it and be okay and actually be in a state of gratitude for what is, including these perceived,
Hmm.
not real limitations that we have bought
Yes.
into. It's actually good that it's there because that means you have so much freaking potential to grow and expand and experience more
Yeah.
amazingness in your life.
Yes. Oh, so powerful. Yeah, absolutely. And you get to decide. If you don't remember anything from this episode, just remember you get to decide. You get to decide what you believe.
Yeah.
Don't you just wish you knew that like so long ago?
Yeah, I mean, I
Again,
wish,
timing, it all happens when it's supposed to, but like, oh my goodness.
yeah, I wish sometimes maybe there's something we're here to do, like so many of us that are doing
Mm.
this behind the scenes energy work. Like, what are we teaching in schools? It's just such a waste of time. And I don't want to, I also think schools are amazing because,
Yeah.
kids connect and obviously kids need to learn to write and basic math and things like that. But I think we can really use this vast amount of time kids spend in school so much more efficient.
Yes.
Also learning about the energy of money is such a profound,
Mhm.
important thing rather than what I see a lot with my daughter is that they just have to memorize things for a
Yes.
test and then it's gone. It's just, and I know this from myself when I went to school. Like, you hone it in the day before and then you're out and about in the real world. And like, I'm not really using any of what I had to memorize. Like, yes,
Yeah.
all of this experience being in school, becoming a more independent person, connecting with other humans, and many teachers you had, they always leave an impact. It's not that everything is bad in schools, not at all. But I
No.
think if we could teach people things like this, how the subconscious works, how the energy of money, trusting your intuition, can you imagine we learn this early on? And kids, instead of following the path that their parents told them they have to do
Mhm.
and go sign up for college and get into huge debt, doing something that's totally misaligned with their soul. And instead,
Yeah.
they have the courage to do like you knew it's hypnotherapy. And luckily, you have an amazing husband that was like, let's make it happen. We're going to figure
Yeah.
it out. So I think that was also in a way you were ready for it. So source, God, universe sends you
Yes.
him to talk to you
And
and give you
just
the
to
permission you
review,
needed.
in 2005, I was not ready. So again, this is
Yeah,
another
yeah,
example of like when you're, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives kind of thing. like I
yeah.
thought I was ready, wasn't ready because I didn't take a step forward. And then again, when I was set up, when I had, an amazing support system, there was no reason to say no. I could have
Yeah.
created a million reasons, but there was no real reason. And
And
I
like
think,
you said, right? You still in your mind weren't ready, but the universe was
yeah,
like, no, we're gonna figure it out. He's like, oh damn, now I have no more excuse. I better do it.
now I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. So I left corporate 7 years ago in August,
Mm-hmm.
exactly 7 years, and I got fired. But before I got fired, I was at a retreat and I was already doing like coaching, health coaching
Yeah.
at the time. And I remember one of my mentors was there and I had a conversation with him and I was saying like, yeah, I want to quit my job, but I was so scared because also a single mom raising a daughter and also here in Florida, maybe not like in Los Angeles, but it's expensive, It's like
Yes.
you have to bring in money and here in America, when you get out of corporate, you have like nothing. It's not like you get like 5 months of pay or something like that and can figure it out. So I was very nervous thinking about how to bring in money. So I wrote a contract to myself, laying out once I have X amount of clients, I'm going to quit my job. And
Oh,
I signed it in front of the group. Like everyone, I said, it's such a powerful intention. And my mentor was telling me, like, he looked into my eyes, he's like, no, you're ready. And I was like, I don't think so. But he was like, no, you're ready. Like, and he was so convicted. And 2 weeks later, I got fired. And I knew it. I mean, it was already like going on for a year. I had like told my boss about how I love coaching. But did I feel ready? Absolutely no. But the universe was telling me, like, girl, you are ready. Like, you are.
thank you, universe. Best firing
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. No, and I was still scared, but the sense of freedom I felt when I walked out of
Yes,
the office was like the
absolutely.
best. And yeah, I haven't looked back since, and it wasn't always easy. There's always like new challenges. We keep reinventing ourselves, but yeah, you may not think you're ready, but when you're ready, the universe gonna make it happen for you. Like,
Yep. Yeah. And I know everybody listening has at least one example of
yeah.
something like this happening. And it happens all the time. Once we are aware of how the universe communicates with us, how our subconscious communicates with us, it really, that's like game changing, because now you know what to look for. Rather than just letting stuff happen to you, you start to notice where everything seems to be lining up for you. And sometimes I never notice it until after the fact. And I'm like, oh, that's
Mhm.
why this happened, and that,
Yeah.
and that, and that, and that, and that.
You kind of
Thinking
see in
that I
hindsight.
wanted something and then getting something totally different and better. But
Mm.
if I got the thing, those things that you're like, God, I didn't get this thing I thought I wanted, because the thing I actually got was so much better.
Yeah. I have one more
Yeah.
question for you before we wrap it up. So, because you were telling me also when people come to you, they come to you like, I want to make X amount of money. I want to have the
Yeah.
relationship. It's like what we think we want, right?
Yeah.
And I find there is just something with what's really aligned for us, what's in our highest good, which often is not what we think we want. And so
Yep.
the energy of surrender and divine timing, because we can in today's world get into this comparison easily and more focus on materialistic outcomes as success. So what's your take on that or advice for everyone that's listening? Because people may feel like, yeah, but I still haven't made the money, or I still have the successful business, or I still
Yeah.
don't have the relationship I want. Like, what would you tell them?
Okay. I'm sure you've talked about this before, but here's what you actually want. No matter what it is that you want, what you really want is the feeling of
Mm,
whatever you're getting.
exactly.
So you want a Lamborghini? I don't know why I said Lamborghini. I've never thought about a Lamborghini in my life. I do not want that. But if you did, let's say you want a sports car. What is it? What are you going to feel? You're sitting in that leather seat and the sun's beating down on you because you got the top down. What are you feeling? That's
Mhm.
what you want.
Yeah, and bring the
And
feeling
then
in the now, no?
bring the feeling
Mm-hmm.
in the now. So again, how you get the thing is none of your business,
Mm-hmm.
and what it actually looks like when it gets to you is, it's going to be better, and it's going to serve you better if you don't attach to a specific thing. And I know that's hard for people. It's hard for me too. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do because you think you want the thing, but when you break it down, what are the feelings? What am I going to get out of this? Is it freedom? Is it love? Is it joy? Is it fulfillment? Is it happiness? Is it peace? Oh, relief. What is it? Write those things down. Figure out where you already have that in your life, and go be in that energy as often as you damn possibly can. Sorry.
Yeah.
Passionate moment. So that you can train your subconscious to attract more of it, train the universe, train your manifesting power to attract more of it. And
Mhm.
how it comes to you is going to be what you'd like, or something better. We always say this or something better, this or something better. And when you find that in your life, your day-to-day life, thank you, more please. Thank you, universe, more of this, please. Thank you, mindset. Thank you, subconscious. Thank you, body, more of this, please. It's like putting in an order. Now, how do you make peace with not getting the thing you thought you wanted? Because you're already going to have something better. Like it almost feels cheap to say it. And I had one client comes to mind. She came to me to lose weight. She wanted to lose weight and feel better. She hated how she looked in photos. And
Mhm.
she always had this, I guess, negative mindset about her and what she was worth based on how she looked.
Mhm.
And I had to kind of sit her down one day and be like, I'm going to help you be okay with you. Because what happens when we do that, and
Mhm.
she didn't want to hear it. I wouldn't either if I were her. But if I help you be okay with you, the inside beauty will start to overflow into the outside. And don't be surprised if you find that the body type that you feel most comfortable in just starts to appear because of how you feel on the inside, right? And it's so annoying to hear that. I didn't know that, but it is so true every single time. When you're solid on the inside, when you have these pillars of strength and confidence and self-worth and deep trust in your intuition and yourself, you will begin to love the entire package. And when you love the entire package, it loves you back and it takes care of you.
Yeah, no, yes. Yes
I
to all
mean,
of it. Like I say this to my clients a lot too. I love how you hone it in. And I think we're all having the same message and everybody needs to hear it. I mean, that's the work of Joe Dispenza, like so many people that are out there, right? And because that's also why for so many people, all these things don't work because they're chasing something from a place of not being okay with what is. It's
yes.
like, yeah, you may have it temporarily, but that's why we have the yo-yo with diets. That's why we have you experience something good and you break down. That's the upper limits, how Gay Hendrick calls it in the Big Leap Year. I mean, it's like we have it everywhere. And when we can, like you described it, from a place of really loving yourself and acceptance again,
Yeah,
if you cannot accept who you are, you're going to stay in a state of resistance and create more of what you don't want, right? And
exactly.
it's a rat race with that. So I'm so
And
happy you see that the same.
yeah. And again, just because you're accepting what is doesn't mean you're satisfied with what is. You can accept it
Yeah.
and also want more. There's this metaphor, I can't remember who says it, but it's always stuck with me when you're on like Google Maps and you're routing your destination
Mm-hmm.
and you see all these plot points on the map, right? But that's your destination over there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get upset and mad every time you hit one of those plot points because you're still on your way. And you don't have to just stop at a plot point and be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm accepting of where I am, so I'm not going any further. No, you're going to keep
Yeah.
going and you're going to get
Yeah.
to your destination. It just means you're not going to break down every time you're not there. Every time you're still not there yet, you're not going to stop moving forward.
Exactly. And the other thing also that I have been realizing over these years, it's not about the destination, it's about enjoying the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the destination probably keeps changing as you start to enjoy
Yeah.
the journey. And then, like you say, you thought you wanted that destination, and then the universe, whoa, we're gonna go to Maui instead of like some
Yeah.
island or so. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be even better than what we wanted. So,
100%.
oh my goodness, so much to talk about. Time is flying.
Do
So
we have to stop? This is so much fun.
yeah, no, it's like wow, it's almost an hour. So yeah, I want to be conscious of your time. We probably both have other commitments. I'm gonna get my hair done today. So
Oh, nice.
yes, I want to just hear from you. How can people reach out to you? I know you have a podcast yourself, you have a membership. Anything else you want to share? I'm gonna put everything in the show notes.
No, I mean, no, if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram and TikTok, just lynnsey.robinson.com. The podcast, High Vibing It, we also had Gay Hendricks on. He was so he's just such a
Yeah,
delightful
he's
man.
awesome.
And yeah, my membership is somewhere if you want to get more familiar with my work, and you don't know if you want to if you want to work together now, then obviously yes, that's on my website. But if you want to try it out and see how hypnotherapy is and the kind of work that I do, I have a really cool hypnotherapy membership called Align Your Mind. That is basically all of my best digital products, my hypnotherapy audios,
Mm.
everything that works really well with my one-on-one clients. I've made a digital version to put into the membership. We do live events every month, and it's just a really cool place to hang out and live your best life. So go check it out. And I've been so honored to be here with you all for the last hour. And Elena's amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with all of us. It was my pleasure. It was my honor to have you. And you listeners, thank you as always for being here. And I'm excited to be back with you all on the next episode. Bye. Thanks again, Lynnsey.
Bye.